there, welcome to this episode of Experts on Purpose. The special guest we have today is Maureen Mwangi. Maureen is the brand growth strategist behind some of America's most beloved brands like L'Oreal, Chobani, Dove, and Lace. She is the creator of Big Brand Academy, the Product Profit Lab, and Startward Consulting, a consulting firm dedicated to teaching product-based entrepreneurs the sales and marketing strategies they need to scale with scientific precision so they can turn their product brands into household names. Maureen's zone of genius is her rare ability to connect with the market and turn real data into brand growth strategies that drive multi-million-dollar growth. Hey, Maureen, welcome to Experts on Purpose.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here today and have this conversation.
I'm super excited too, Maureen, because most of the people I meet, including myself, we serve service-based entrepreneurs. So the moment I saw your profile that you help product-based entrepreneurs, I thought I must have you on the show because it's going to add this new flavor and I'm going to learn a lot. So how did you get started with the industry of helping products?
So actually, my entrepreneurship journey started at the dinner table when I was a young girl growing up with my parents. My parents have a product-based business back in Kenya. So having being in the experience, watching them build their business literally from the ground up got me excited and fascinated with everything that concerns the product-based business. But one thing that really impacted my parents was they really struggled with branding and marketing.
Okay.
And this happened because at the point in which their business started scaling, there was a huge influx of counterfeit products from China because of how the markets had actually opened up. So my parents would really not understand why were we so successful before, but now everybody is literally copying and pasting what we were doing back then. So just seeing the frustration that they went through, seeing them almost shut down their business, really put the concept of branding and marketing in my head, but I really had no idea how I was going to pursue it in the future.
Right.
Fast forward, I did a bachelor's degree in finance, really felt that was not my calling. I really didn't want to do anything with investment banking, capital markets. But then I was really fascinated with a new field that was coming up called data analytics. And little did I know that data analytics in the US at that point in time was marketing analytics. So I moved over to the US, pursued a master's in business analytics, also known as marketing analytics. And that really led me into the space of marketing consulting, brand consulting. And I really got the opportunity to work with some of the biggest giants in the world. And that's how my fascination for empowering entrepreneurs came about, because I really understood what these big boys do in order to continue maintaining market share, in order to constantly have brand relevance in the customer's mind. And that is when it dawned on me that the reason small businesses don't succeed is because they don't have the information. So I started testing these new pieces of information with my father's business, and I did notice a spike. I did notice a change. I was like, let me just start this business on the side as a side hustle when I'm working full time, and really onboard product-based businesses, teach them strategies of how to build a business, teach them strategies of how to scale, and also teach them strategies on how to leverage the data they have in their business in order for them to see exponential growth. And that's how my journey started. And right now I'm full-time in my business, and I'm really excited and looking forward to see what the future holds.
Wow, this is such a fascinating story, because you saw the success of your parents and also you saw their downfall, and you understood what was the missing piece, and you were able to learn all of that through your education in market analytics. And you also worked in consulting firms. That's where you got this exposure.
Yes, I did work in consulting firms. I worked at Nielsen, where we did a lot of predictive analytics, brand consulting, forecasting, you name it. And then after a few years, I was like, I want to have experience on what it means to actually be the client, right? Rather than being the advisor, be the client. And when I moved over to the client side is when I learned the entire equation of how to build a brand from the ground up and literally get it to become a household name.
Wonderful. So you were in a successful job. Usually these consulting firms pay their employees well. So wasn't it scary for you to quit that job and, start something from the ground up on your own?
Yes, that was to date. That's the second hardest thing I did. The first hardest thing I did was packing my bags and leaving Kenya with just 2 suitcases and coming over to the US. But the second hardest thing I did was really leaving a highly coveted role. The role I had before was a role that everybody dies to have, and taking the leap to pursue this purpose, to pursue this calling that you actually have no sense of whether it's going to work. It's not tangible. It's just a dream and a vision that you have, but you're feeling a burning desire inside of you to push it forward. But one thing I really did, and if you're working full time and you have a side business, the first thing I did was I learned how to sell and market. So if you're ever thinking about leaving your full-time job, please make sure you acquire the skills of learning how to sell and how to market. Because by the time I was leaving, I really had a dialed-in sales and marketing system built into my business. So all I needed to understand is, if I've already done this, doing it on the side, or if I had more time, I could duplicate and amplify my efforts. I didn't take a leap of faith blindly. I calculated that step I took, but still that it doesn't downplay how risky it was. But one thing I know is, once you have a skill, nobody's going to take it away from you.
Absolutely. So what were some of the places that you went to actually equip yourself with these sales and marketing skills?
I invested in mentorship. I really invested in mentorship. I hired I joined a marketing program that really taught us everything to do with online businesses, how to market your business online. And then I also invested in a sales mentor who really taught me how to close high ticket packages. Because one thing I knew is I wanted to monetize my skills, but I also wanted to price them accordingly, because I know pricing is the number one thing that you need to that pricing is the number one thing that will determine whether you're pretty successful or not. Because at the end of the day, you need to have profit margins in your business. And if you don't price correctly, you're not going to be sustainable, and you're really going to fall through the cracks. So I really invested in those 2 mentors, and they took my business from 0 to like multi 6 figures in under 15 months.
Wow. And only after that did you actually quit your job, because you kind of...
I quit in between that.
In between, yeah. So you did not actually quit and then start everything, but you actually started, you saw some success there, and you knew that if you actually invest your full time in this, it's going to be a lot more successful.
Yes, I betted on myself. That's what I did. I betted on myself, and I said, I'm going all in. I already have the skills that I need to have, and I really want to jump into this vision. And I'm a believer, so I surrendered everything to God. I have this saying that I usually say, let go and let God. And it's not been easy, but because I'm so anchored in my faith, even when things are really, really tough, I know where to lean back to. And I've really started understanding that entrepreneurship is like a wave. You know how it's a ocean. So sometimes the tides are really heavy, and then the tides are soft. And so once I started putting that into my head, and also understanding entrepreneurship is a marathon and not a sprint, things became so much easier. I learned to enjoy the process and not look for the results. That's another thing, because people get in and they're like, I really need to make this. But when you get in with that desire and attachment, sometimes you can lose sight of why you've been put here to do what you're supposed to do.
That is so true. So who were some of your first clients? How did they get to know about you?
So first of all, the first thing you do, you always look for the low-hanging fruit. Who do I know? So I did support my parents' businesses. I supported my parents' friends' businesses, really to get a proof of concept. Then once I noticed that my process works, I really understood my framework. I knew what my recipe was. I invested in Facebook ads because, like I said, I started this business from the ground up. I didn't have anything, no audience, nothing. So I invested in Facebook ads. I started building my audience. But while I was building my audience, I did provide value, and I still provide value until today. Because I do understand, like, my content is my product. You know how when you're buying a physical product, you window shop the stores, you touch the clothes, you try them on, and then you decide whether you're going to buy. But in the space that we are in, your content is your product. And I constantly published content every single week up until today. And through that process, and I know my audience really well, your messaging, really, this is what I tell people, your messaging is what connects with your audience.
Right.
Jump on a sales call with them. And that's how I started. I started with one client. Now I have over 50 clients in my portfolio.
This is so amazing. So you spoke about the importance of content as an important piece in your marketing. So what type of content is your favorite? Like, is it blogs, or do you mean something on social media? So how do you do that consistently?
My best form of content is leveraging the video platform, like what we're doing, streaming on YouTube, streaming on Facebook, streaming on LinkedIn, whatever the platforms you can stream, and then repurposing that content into podcasts. Right. That's my favorite way of doing content. And I think it's also my favorite way because that's how my audience consumes content. That's how I also consume content. Right. And that's what I've used for a very long time. Right now in my business, we're starting to add in blogs just because of the SEO aspect. But to answer your question, I started with one medium, one platform, became very, very good at it, know the mechanics behind it before I started adding something else.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So in the product space, there are all kinds of products and all kinds of entrepreneurs at different stages. So who are your favorite type of clients? So what kind of products should they be having, and at what stage should they be in when they come to you? So it's funny because I want to share my story so that people understand that you don't need to be perfect when you're getting into this space. So when I started with anybody who sells a physical product. If you have a physical product, I'm your go-to person, and I'm really going to help you grow and scale that business to break through to your 6 figures in revenue that you want. Then later down the road, I noticed that 90% of my clients are beauty-based entrepreneurs. And so now I've niched into the beauty space. So anyone who sells beauty, skincare, hair care, cosmetics, also candles. I know candles are not beauty, but for some reason I have so many of those clients. So when it comes to my audience, those are the people I primarily work with. And what do I really help them do? I really help them build an obsession brand. And once they build an obsession brand, I help them break through to 6 figures in revenue in under 12 months. Wow, that's really fascinating.
And one thing that is so good about my process, we don't leverage complicated marketing strategies. All this is done with a very simple marketing strategy, a very dialed in strategy that is unique to each business, because I believe every brand is unique.
Yeah, it has its own story, right?
Exactly.
Got it. So when you started, Maureen, did you have this 12-month consulting program as one thing that you sold? Because right now I saw a couple of things on your website. And by the way, I want to talk about your website a little later. It's one of the most impeccable and beautiful looking websites that I have seen. I see websites every single day, but yours truly stood out. So I'll talk about that in a minute. But first, I just want to understand, right now you have the Product Profit Lab at the Big Brand Academy. So did you launch this one after the other, or did you already have this plan?
So when I'm talking, so the Product Profit Lab is my flagship program. And what do I mean by my flagship program? Anyone who is looking to understand how to build a brand that becomes a big brand, that's a program, because it's all about the foundation and the principles of building a sustainable, profitable product-based business. Because one thing I have noticed, and I'm proud to say this, in this space that I am in, a lot of my competitors are teaching things that are not foundational. They're teaching how to market, they're teaching how to brand, but they're not teaching how to set the foundation of a business. And pretty much the business will survive if the foundation is solid.
Yeah. So yours is a more long-term approach, right?
It's a very long-term approach. And that is why I've had clients get into retail in under 12 months. I've had clients break through 6 figures in under 12 months. I have had clients get into high-end spa boutiques in under 8 months. It's because of how solid the foundation is, which funny thing, they come and tell me, the vendors think I'm a big brand, but I'm not a big brand. I'm so small. I'm like, it's because you have the foundation solid. So everything you're doing after this is just getting amplified. So that is a Product Profit Lab, which is a signature program and we cover how to discover your brand's a secret sauce, where we talk a lot about pricing, packaging, positioning. The second thing we do is we really start building in the wow factor. So what I talk about the wow factor is when you look at brands, all brands have a community. Right? So we teach you how to build community around your product. So you always have customers who are really rallying around your product. Then we teach you how to design your packaging. Like I call it how to building a sex appeal. When you go into big brands, you notice the packaging, there's a science behind packaging. Right. And now we teach you how to maximize sales. So how do you sell on e-commerce? How do you sell wholesale? How do you sell retail? How do you sell into home channels? That's the core premise of that program. And pretty much it's the foundation. Once you have that, people have exponential growth. We get into big brand. So big brand is now you've already achieved six figures. And
that's like the next level.
That's the next level.
But you did not start with that, right? You just started with the foundational course. So is it like a group coaching program or is it one-on-one?
So the Product Profit Lab is a group coaching program. The Big Brand Academy is more mastermind focused. So a lot more consulting, a lot more high touch personal one-on-one experience because of a lot of NDA and data because it's data heavy and we have to review data. So it's more mastermind focused. How do big brands think? How can you tweak in order to experience predictable 7 figures in revenue? How can you hire a team, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Fantastic. So what I really loved about the way all this is put on your website is it's so simple and yet it's like so premium. So what was your thought process behind the website, Maureen? Because the minute I saw your website, I felt, wish I had a product so that I can work with you. You know, that was the kind of connection I had with, you know, your amazing photo shoot pictures and the colors that you used and basically the clean look and feel of your overall branding. So what was the idea behind the way your site looks?
Oh, that's a science. That's pretty much a science. So everybody who's thinking about branding, is thinking about building a website, is thinking about the social media platform, you always have to think about the perception that you want your ideal customer to have. So there's certain adjectives that I hold dearly, that I live by. I really wanted my ideal client to come in and be like, this is a real deal. Right. I wanted my ideal client to come in and be like, she gets what I need. She understands my problem. This is a person that I want to work with. I wanted them to come and also feel inspired, because my story is a journey of inspiration. It's a journey of transformation. It's a journey of literally me working for every single thing. None of this was handed to me on a silver platter. So I wanted people to come in and be like, it's achievable. All they need to do is believe in themselves and find a mentor or an advisor that can get them to where they want to be. Yeah. And that one of the taglines I have is, you don't have to go through this journey alone. I never went through this journey alone. Right. So all of it ties back to the psychology of my audience. I know my audience very well, and that is a fundamental of every business. You have to know the person that you're selling to. You have to understand their frustrations. You have to understand their fears. You have to understand their wants. And you also have to really understand their true deep desire. Because a lot of times, like for me, I can market that I'll help you scale your business to 7 figures, but that's what you want. But your true desire is that you want freedom, you want a legacy, and you want time with your kids. You want to leave your corporate job to have freedom, to have the vacation that you want, to do anything that you've always desired. But at the same time, you want to leave something tangible for your kids. Right. And you have to understand that.
Exactly. So how did you actually, I'm sure like now you've worked with more than 50 brands. So you actually know what they really want, what are their pain points, what are their desires. But when you started out, did you go with the assumption, or did you probably try to understand that my parents and their friends whom I initially helped had these problems, so let me start with that? And over the years, have you evolved it?
Yes. I used that experience as a prototype. So I used my parents' struggles, I used my parents' journey as an understanding of what they're truly going through. And then one thing that I was very fortunate in my life was I did market research. I spent like 3 years in rooms, in focus groups with big brands. And so I was really close to customers. I was really close to consumers. So I really could understand what people truly want in their life. And I just combined those two things. And I started off with that audience. And like in everything else, you refine your audience as your business grows. You also grow as a person. Yeah. And so things have changed and evolved to where they are today.
Yeah. That's really nice. The other thing I wanted to ask you was, your brand actually revolves around you, right? Like everything about the website has your personality. But instead of calling it maureenmwangi.com, you have Startward Consulting, right? That's the name of the brand. Was that a conscious decision?
Yes, it was a conscious decision because I'm just a product in the company.
Wow.
I'm the product in the company. So it's me who's running the show. But at the end of the day, Startward Consulting is supposed to be bigger than me. We're going to have an education arm. We're going to have a foundation arm. We're going to have an advisory arm. And so I was building that with the long-term vision. I'm just the product for the consulting space.
Wow, that's such a nice way to look at it. And, that's also, I can see this long-term vision behind what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Right? Also, you've mentioned in one of your pages on the website that there are only 3 ways to grow your business. So for those product-based entrepreneurs who are listening or watching this show, could you just walk us quickly through those 3 ways probably the only 3 ways to scale up your business?
Get more customers, acquire more customers, retain your customers. So this is a concept that I often talk about, the leaky bucket. When you're in the product space, you have to think about your brand as a leaky bucket, a bucket that has holes. So if water is coming in, you have water that's going to remain in your bucket, and you have water that's going to be filtered out. Yeah. The water is synonymous to your customers. Oftentimes in the product space, a lot of people really focus on acquisition, so putting the water in the bucket, but they're not looking at the people
retaining the water.
So it's a balance between acquiring your customers, retaining those that you already have, and if you ever lose customers, reclaiming those who had previously bought from you. And then the other way to grow your product-based business, and research has shown over and over again, is through price increases. And I say this because the biggest mistake product-based businesses make is adding more product into their portfolio, but adding more product into your portfolio doesn't help you grow your business because that product becomes cannibalistic. So if you truly want to experience growth in your business, it's the acquiring, retaining, reclaiming, and a price increase.
Wow, very well said. This is so simple and such a common sense thing that you've told. But why don't people do it then? What stops them from just focusing on these 3 things?
A lot of people don't have this knowledge. Because this is what I have seen. People start products because they were trying to solve a problem for themselves. So a lot of people who start the products don't have the business acumen, or they don't understand the business, sales, and marketing. So they're really starting a product to help others, to fulfill their purpose and their desire, and also to solve the problem that they probably were having. So you have this amazing product, but you're a creative. So because you're a creative, not many people have the business understanding, the business foundation. So you don't know what is the right thing to do. And it also gets very confusing because of how much information is out there on YouTube.
Yeah.
So you find yourself running a business that is complicated because the information out there got it so complicated and just becomes a hot mess.
Yeah, this is so true because today, in today's world where information is so freely available and there is so much distraction, one doesn't know which paths to take and whom to follow. And they end up just taking these free seminars, webinars, or YouTube videos from everybody rather than just focusing on one person and one method and just trying to learn everything from them. And the other important thing that you highlighted is product creators are creative people. They know their products well, but probably they're not good at sales and marketing, and they should accept that and invest time and effort in learning all of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And the final thing I wanted to ask you, Maureen, because you're not just an expert, but you're an expert on purpose. The reason I believe in that is because of your nonprofit that you run in Kenya. Could you just talk a little bit about that?
Yes, so my nonprofit is called Taji Foundation. Taji Foundation is the foundation that really focuses on educating the young boys in Kenya throughout their high school education in order for them to get a college degree. And this is a passion project for me because the boy child in the African society is pretty much the backbone of the economy. What do I mean? Whenever a girl child gets married, they get married into the boy's family. Right. So there's always that pressure for the boy to do well, to have money, to support the family, to provide. And when that is not there, then the boy child can easily just disappear, not be relevant at all. And so there's been this huge movement on women empowerment, but the boy child has been neglected. Right. And the only way I'm going to speak for our society, the only way people can move from one social status is through education. The one thing that you can give any child in Africa is education. And I really want the boys to be able to finish high school, because once they finish high school, they can get into college and their life can actually change, because that's exactly what happened to me. I came to the US through education. If I did not come through education, I just don't know where I would be.
Wow. I mean, this is so, heartwarming, because I never thought about this cause from this angle, right? Because we do so many things. I've seen so many organizations dedicate a lot of funds for the girls' empowerment, but there are societies where the boy child is also neglected. So I'm really proud of what you're doing, Maureen. And thank you so much for coming on the show. What would be your final, one important piece of advice for entrepreneurs who have something valuable, but they're really playing a small game?
What I would say is the vision that you've been thinking about that has been put inside of you has been put inside of you by a higher being. In my case, it is God. And do not play with that vision. If you have a calling, you need to take it seriously. And what you need to do is trust yourself and believe yourself enough for you to accomplish that vision. Because the reason you're playing small is because you're doubting. You don't have the confidence. But you're not in the game of having the confidence right now. What you're supposed to have is really rely on your self-confidence. And how I define self-confidence is the belief that you can do it. Rely on the belief and not your ability. Once you move in self-confidence and you take that leap, the how always shows up. Right. The universe conspires to show you the way. But you have to take that leap. You have to move in self-confidence. Your brain has no frame of reference of what it means to be an entrepreneur, what it means to have an impact, what it means to be something bigger than yourself. And it's not supposed to have it, because you're operating based on everything that has happened in the past. And it's your time to create this new reality and design your life. And you're not going to design your life if you're constantly in fear. You have to move in courage.
Very well said, Maureen. Thank you so much. Where can people find more about you?
You can find more about me in my Facebook group. It's called Product Entrepreneurs Who Scale. So if you go to Facebook, really type in Product Entrepreneurs Who Scale, and my group is going to pop up. If you want to really come and hang out with me on Instagram, you can come to Maureen Mwangi Official.
Fantastic. We'll have all the links right below in the show notes. Thank you so much, Maureen, for spending your valuable time with us.
Thank you for having me.